Today's session introduces the apex predator taxonomy. Each of you will find your homeworld's classification somewhere on this chart. Professor, I think you put me in the wrong column.
The Coalition's Advanced Xenobiology program drew students from 41 species across 9 systems. Professor Dalen had run the Apex Predator Taxonomy session for 16 years, and in those 16 years the session had followed a consistent arc. Cadets located their home world's classification, the class discussed the taxonomy's organizing principles, Dalen illustrated the evolutionary pressures that produced apex predator characteristics, and the session concluded with an understanding of how biological threat profiles shaped the development of military and diplomatic strategy. It was a good session. Dalen was proud of it. Cadet Ryden Voss of Earth had enrolled through the Human Exchange Program and had been in the program for 3 weeks. He was quiet, attentive, produced competent written work, and had not, in 3 weeks, done anything that suggested this particular session was going to require Dalen to update his curriculum. The chart had 41 entries, one for each enrolled species' home world. Each entry classified the species along 4 axes: biological threat level, evolutionary predator characteristics, territorial aggression index, and prey versus predator designation across their native ecosystem. Humans were classified in the chart's 3rd column: moderate biological threat, limited predator characteristics, low territorial aggression index, ambiguous ecosystem designation. The classification had been assigned by the Coalition's Xenobiology Division based on standard intake metrics: comparative physical size against apex predators, natural weapon capability, sensory acuity, and a general assessment of where the species fell in their home ecosystem relative to the things that ate them. Ryden looked at the chart. "I think I'm in the wrong column," he said. Dalen explained, with the patience of someone who has had many versions of this conversation, that the taxonomy used standardized metrics across all enrolled species to ensure comparative accuracy. "What metrics?" Ryden asked. "Physical size relative to apex predators in the native ecosystem, natural weapon capability." "Earth has apex predators," Ryden said. "Bears, big cats, crocodilians, sharks, wolves. All of them are in that 3rd column as the things at the top of their respective ecosystems." He looked at the chart. "Humans aren't in that column. Humans are in a 4th category that the chart appears to have decided doesn't exist." Dalen looked at the Earth entry. "The 4th category," he said, "would be..." "We eat the apex predators," Ryden said. "We've been doing it for approximately 40,000 years. Bears, big cats, crocodilians, sharks, we hunt them, we've reduced their populations, we've driven some of their relatives to extinction through consistent predation pressure across geological timescales." He paused. "We also domesticated a wolf species by selectively breeding it for 30,000 years. The domestic variant now lives in our homes. We did this to the apex predator of the Ice Age, and then we made it small enough to carry in a bag." The classroom was very quiet. One alien cadet in the front row had pushed their chair back approximately 6 inches without appearing to notice. "The taxonomy," Dalen said, "organizes species by their comparative biological characteristics relative to other species in their native environment." "Right," Ryden said. "And in Earth's native environment, the species with the highest consistent predation pressure on all other apex predators is the one that doesn't have natural weapons or superior physical size. Which is the interesting data point." He looked around the room at the other cadets. "Every apex predator on Earth knows what a human smells like. Every one of them has behavioral patterns that evolved in response to human hunting pressure. We're the reason apex predators across the planet are currently in conservation programs." Dalen looked at the Earth classification in the chart. He had assigned it based on the Xenobiology Division's standard intake metrics, which he had used for 16 years. "The intake metrics," he said, slowly, "assess natural weapon capability." "Humans don't have natural weapons," Ryden agreed. "We have a 2-million-year tradition of making weapons from available materials, which we then use to hunt things that are larger, faster, more dangerous, and better armed than us." He tilted his head slightly. The intake metrics appear to have classified us as prey in our own ecosystem. The ecosystem appears to disagree. The rotating catalog continued its display. The alien cadet who had pushed their chair back had now moved it another inch. Dalen pulled up the Earth entries supporting data, the raw numbers behind the standardized classification. Physical size, below average for apex predator category. Natural weapons, none categorized. Sensory acuity, moderate. Below those three rows, in a supplementary data field that the classification algorithm had generated but not foreground, population impact on apex predator species, significant. Behavioral modification of coexisting predator species, documented. Prey designation in native ecosystem, contested. Contested. The supplementary field had used the word contested, and the classification algorithm had filed it as a footnote rather than a primary category, and 16 years of sessions had proceeded without anyone in the room being from a species where the word contested was doing quite this much work. "I'll need to revise the entry," Dalen said. "The division's intake form," Ryden said, "has a field for ecosystem designation override. I filled it out during enrollment. It should be in the supplementary file." Dalen found the supplementary file. The override field contained, in Ryden's neat handwriting, apex predator. Cross-ecosystem. No natural weapons. Tool-dependent. See domesticated Canis lupus familiaris for reference. At the bottom, in smaller print, the wolf, for context, used to eat us. We kept the ones that seemed friendly and made them smaller. We now take them for walks. Dalen read it twice. He looked at the room. The alien cadet at the front had now moved their chair back to the wall. Dalen updated the Earth classification. He changed the designation from the third column to a category he created on the spot, which he labeled Apex, Tool-Dependent. Ecosystem Dominance, Total. Threat Profile, Extremely Underclassified in Standard Metrics. He added a note to the curriculum file. The intake metrics do not account for species whose predator advantage is technological, organizational, and multigenerational rather than biological. Recommend taxonomy revision. Starting point, the wolf. The session ran 40 minutes over its standard duration. By the end of it, 6 alien cadets had quietly moved their seats incrementally toward the back of the room, and 2 had submitted follow-up reading requests to the Xenobiology archive on the subject of Earth's historical predation record. Ryden Voss sat at the front, arms folded on his desk, watching the discussion with the expression he had walked into the room with, the controlled containment of someone who had known, before they arrived, that this was going to be a long class. He had been very patient about it. He had been very patient about it. On Earth, becoming an apex predator had never been the final achievement. Humanity's greatest evolutionary trick had been becoming the thing that hunted apex predators. The taxonomy committee would spend the next year trying to invent a category for that. They had spent centuries searching the galaxy for the perfect apex predator. They never imagined the most dangerous one had evolved by learning to hunt the rest. The end. Thanks for watching.